welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. My name is Ugo Chukwu Akabike, and I am a junior here at the university. I study art, technology, and business. I'm also a Department Finance Committee member, so I'm familiar with the budgeting process, both the cutting and the receiving of cuts of funds. This morning, specifically, I'd like to speak to the 15.6% cut to the JSMA's budget. I'd like to implore you to find alternative solutions to our school's financial problems that do not involve the JSMA. I say this because the Jordan Snitzer Museum of Art changes lives. The Jordan Snitzer Museum of Art changes lives. It does this in its programs, in part. It does this through the Reflections and Connections program, which allows a place of respite for people with dementia to come and make art and have their art displayed. It does this through the Very Special Arts program, a similar program but for people in our community with mental development issues. The museum is also a place for learning. Last year, over 9,000 students came to the museum to either take classes or partake in class-based research. 9,000. This is an incredible feat. Our museum is a model for what academic art institutions across the nation should be. Our efforts at the museum should be highly valued. It should be acknowledged, and it should be rewarded. However, the reward should not come in the form of a 15.6 reduction in its resources. The museum is also a space of opportunity, personally for me. Although it does not provide me with a degree, it has been integral to my career here at the university. It's provided me more than just a place of employment. It's provided me with an opportunity to grow as a person, as a professional, and as an artist, the reason why I study here. The museum is an integral component to the University of Oregon, and I implore you to find alternative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the sign-up list is Chris Sinclair. Do I see you, Chris? Okay. Welcome back. Either one.
All right. Good morning.
Yep. Just get right up on it.
Right up on it?
Oh.
Yes. Next one.
How about this one?
Woo! Perfect.
Okay. My name is Chris Sinclair. I am the president of United Academics of the University of Oregon. I am the immediate past president of the University Senate. I'm an associate professor of mathematics. And soon, starting next year, I will be an associate professor in the Clark Honors College. All right. So the Board of Trustees at the University of Oregon is in an untenable situation. The people below you on the org chart, represented by the people in this room, are supremely unhappy with the financial management and strategic vision of the university. Simultaneously, the people above you, legislators and political appointees, are supremely unhappy with the financial mismanagement and strategic vision of the university. It seems the only people happy with the university leadership on budget issues are donors and the trustees themselves. The mission of the university, approved by this body, is the University of Oregon is a comprehensive public research university committed to exceptional teaching, discovery, and service. We work at a human scale to generate big ideas. As a community of scholars, we help individuals question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically. This is a good mission. The mission is the touchstone for decision making. It should be the North Star of the board, the words to revisit when making your decisions. You're about to be asked to approve an extremely high tuition increase. You are being asked to finance the university on the backs of Oregon students. By doing this, you are implicitly agreeing that it is more important to preserve athletics and other donor-driven initiatives in exchange for millions in additional debt for Oregon students and families. The University of Oregon has already telegraphed the message that instead of plugging the looming budget shortfall, it is more important to install state-of-the-art sound systems in athletics facilities. These new speakers will undoubtedly come from donor money, but this is irrelevant. Legislators have already heard the message that speakers are more important than students. Faculty have heard the message that world-class athletics facilities are more important than students. Students themselves have heard that we're broke and that they should take on debt and years of financial risk to accommodate the fickle whim of an octogenarian billionaire. This is but one example, and it is emblematic of a larger problem. How do these decisions and the resulting negative change in public perception benefit students? How do they benefit the relationship between the university and the state? How do they support the mission, the North Star of the university? Cultivating donors is like trophy hunting for university presidents. However, as a skill, it is only valued by other university presidents and those who measure success in dollar signs. Our president is particularly good at this aspect of his job, and it will undoubtedly lead to a promotion to a better university one day. On that day, will we be looking at a university with a handful of expensive white elephants littering campus and serving a handful of elite researchers and coaches, while the core academic facilities rot from neglect, classrooms overflow, and Oregon students are saddled with debt? Or will we see a community of scholars who help individuals question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically? The choice is yours, and it is time for you as trustee to shift the financial decision-making back to the mission of the university. You must be brave. You must do this. The University of Oregon is counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, the next speaker signed up is Bill Harbaugh. Bill, I saw you. Where are you, sir? Welcome back. Welcome back, Bill. Bill wants to talk about the tuition increase, it says.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Bill Harbaugh. I'm a professor of economics. I'm the current president of the University Senate. And I have nothing to add to Chris's excellent remarks, with which I completely agree. This board has failed to do its job, and I hope that you can have a serious conversation amongst yourselves about how to do it better. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Louie Vidmar. And Louie wants to talk about the tuition increase, I understand, and please introduce yourself, Louie.
My name is Louie Vidmar. I graduated from the UAUO in 2009 and currently work as an IT consultant in the College of Design. So I'm an alumni as well as an employee. I care very deeply about this university. I'm also president of SEIU Local 85, representing approximately 1,600 classified workers across the university. While I'm proud to have attended this university, to serve this university, and support all levels of education, I am dismayed at the priorities set forth by President Schill that do not support the very labor that provides this education. The UAUO administration signed on to a letter opposing House Bill 2016, the Oregon Public Worker Protection Act, citing, "The bill expands worker rights," among other things. UAUO administration appears to be looking at cutting the healthcare benefits from collective bargaining units like GTFF and SEIU. President Schill proposed cutting the funding for the Labor Education Research Center by 68%. The work LERC does for working people in Oregon is incredible. LERC is the only center of its kind in the state of Oregon. It fulfills a significant portion of UAUO's public service mission. I implore you, please keep LERC at work. I'm also dismayed at the ever-increasing rate of tuition on this campus. When I came to the university in 2003, undergraduate tuition and fees were about $6,000 a year total. When I graduated in 2009, it was about $8,500. This year, it adds up to more than $13,000 a year. Out-of-state tuition has hovered around 3 times these figures. Each year, students, faculty, and staff come and say, that's too much, but it keeps rising. Every 2 years, we in SEIU hear the false narrative pinning student tuition increases on staff bargaining, yet staff have only seen cost of living adjustments between 0 and 2%, to 0.25% was the highest in the past decade. Yet salaries for upper administration has skyrocketed. Meanwhile, there's cranes putting up shiny new buildings all over campus. It doesn't add up. We're here to provide students, faculty, and frankly administrators the services they need to succeed, not to have the budget balanced in our backs when many of our members struggle to provide for their families. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mike, I think it's Magee. And Mike wants to talk about tuition. Welcome.
Greetings, everyone. I think I know some of you. My name is Michael Magee. Thanks for getting that right. It's frequently Mick-Gee. It's one of those weird historical bizarre things about my family. Anyway, hi, I'm a fifth-year PhD candidate in political science. I'm also president of the Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation and serving as our lead negotiator in bargaining this year. So I am here to speak today about the tuition increase and also about much of the heinous budget priorities that are happening on this campus. So, President Schill, as a fellow Mike and a fellow president of a large organization, I can sympathize with the challenges that you face. But unfortunately, you've brought a kind of unity to this campus that I don't think you intended, and I don't think this Board of Trustees ever desired you to do. And that kind of unity is an antagonism against your leadership. I don't know if you see behind me, we have representatives from undergraduate students, graduate students, classified staff, faculty, various other constituencies on campus that you have successfully brought together to oppose these budget choices. Just to name a few of those things. Of course, the 11%, although now 9.5% based on the last email, so we appreciate that generosity. The 9.5% tuition increase. Proposals in bargaining with GTFF that consistently assert cutting our health insurance. Proposals in SEIU bargaining that are trying to cut their benefits and impose really draconian control over their working conditions. Cutting LERC's budget by 2/3. LERC, again, as my colleague said before, the only labor center in this state that does essential work for workers around Oregon. And many other things. And the message I want to send to you all is that I know that there are challenges. I've seen the presentation about the different buckets. There's the restricted, there's the unrestricted, but ultimately budgets are a reflection of your priorities. You have the power to make choices about where money goes, and those choices you've made so far have successfully united this campus against you. I don't think any of us want to be in that position. None of us want to see really intense disruptions on this campus to education or to work. So I implore you to change course. I implore you to make different decisions so that come next fall, come these following months, this campus can continue the great work we do for students and that things aren't disrupted in ways that you could have prevented. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Michael, I think it's Marchman. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me speak. My name is Michael Marchman. I am the staff organizer for the Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation. It's the graduate employees on campus. And it is hard to follow what's been said without just repeating what has been said. it's hard as a person on this campus who works closely with 1,400 graduate employees, none of whom earn more than $23,000 a year, many of whom earn $10,000 a year. It's hard to work with that group of people at the same time that we're seeing outrageous things happening on campus, ranging from efforts to undermine basic things like health insurance for those groups, but also seeing incredibly lavish vanity projects being built on this campus. And it's hard to know what is more offensive, whether it's the outrageous ratcheting up of tuition that is pricing out education for the students of Oregon, the foolish plans to rely overwhelmingly on international and out-of-state students that are subject to all kinds of fluctuations that we're witnessing now, or whether it's the approach of the university's administration towards employees in collective bargaining, whether it's the attacks on shared governance and the disrespect of faculty and classified staff on campus, or whether it's the outrageous attacks on the basic core public mission of a public university by gutting funding for museums and for the Labor Education and Research Center. LERC is a precious resource for this state. And that is, and the fact that it has been targeted with a disproportionate cut in its budget of 68% sends a message to everyone, I think, on this campus that these budget cuts are a function of, are a reflection of priorities and are political. And that is outrageous to experience. And President Schill, I want to speak to what Mike Magee, president of GTFF, just said, and to the board of trustees that are responsible for the leadership on this campus. We are entering a state, I think, on this campus where we're going to see more and more unrest, more and more anger, and more disruption if things don't stop. So thank you for taking the time to hear my comments.
Thank you. The next speaker, I think it's Rihanna Lindgren. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Rhiannon Lindgren. I'm a first-year graduate employee in the philosophy department. And I just wanted to say that as a GE in the humanities, but also on this campus in particular, teaching is a huge part of our program, and it's pretty much the only thing that professional philosophers can do. And so in my department, we value our students very, very highly. GEs teach 17% of all lectures, 83% of all labs, and 93% of all discussion sections, which means that we put our labor into the students of this university. And it is offensive, to say the least, to watch President Schill threaten those same students with a 9.5% tuition increase, which is only going to continue as the years continue to go. I also wanted to make a comment that the University of Oregon relies heavily on out-of-state and international students' tuitions, yet they have no protections for international GEs in the current contract. The university refuses to help international GEs over the summer, in which, like, law does not allow them to work off campus, and we are expected to just reproduce our labor for the fall without any help or any assistance at all. I think that that is a disservice not only to the workers on this campus, but also to the students who we have direct contact with frequently. GEs are often the first point of contact for undergraduate students when they first arrive at the U of O. I think that not only is the tuition hike or increase a problem that Schill has created for himself with his own corporate donor problems, and I think as the Board of Trustees, I would implore you to think very seriously about how those problems came to be and not put those problems on the labor that keeps this campus moving and working throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you. And And the next speaker, also on tuition, is I think it's David Puricker, but I'm not sure the last name. It was close enough that you knew who I was looking for, right? Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, my name is David Puricker. I'm a sociologist, a graduate employee, and a proud member of the Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation, AFT Local 3544. Me and all these people are here to show you that Michael Schill and his lieutenants have managed to alienate all of the people who make this campus what it is. Students, graduate workers, faculty, teachers, and researchers, classified staff. President Schill has insulted us all in his persistent efforts to remake the University of Oregon as a business enterprise. The increases to undergraduate tuition and the deep cuts to programs like the Labor Education and Research Center proposed by President Schill are yet another step away from what higher education should be. So I ask the members of this board, where does this process end? Who will be able to pursue higher education at the University of Oregon in 10 years? In 20 years? Will it be our children? Working class children? I doubt it. Not if we stay on this trajectory. But you have another option. These cuts and tuition hikes will only continue to enrage your workers and students. They are a recipe for unrest. Instead of this, if you don't enjoy being confronted in this way, I suggest you seriously reconsider your faith in Michael Schill and the decisions he has made. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, I just can't read the writing. Is it Yongira? Oh. I apologize. I just can't read the handwriting. Welcome.
Hello, Board of Trustees. My name is Yomaira Tarula. I'm a first-generation fourth-year student studying ethnic studies. I am here to urge you to please not move forward with an increased tuition of 11 or 9%. Tuition has been increasing every year. This year has been the worst case yet, and my colleagues and I are furious. For a resident student that is taking 45 credits over the course of an academic year, that is paying more than $1,080. $1,080 that I don't have to pull out of my pocket. Some of y'all are privileged enough to be in the stable financial situations that you are. May suggest that students get a second job or ask their parents. But for me and for many colleagues, there is no asking our parents, even if our parents wanted to. I can't afford to make any more sacrifices to keep myself in school, like get a third job, especially with this proposed increase that the Board of Trustees doesn't seem to care whether I stay or go. We don't miraculously get a pay raise or bonus like President Schill. I am saddened that the administration will not hesitate to continue to raise tuition like crazy the next following years if this tuition increase is passed. Admin claims to do outreach to student union groups and have forums, but there has been no intentional outreach from y'all to myself, my group, Mecha, the largest Latinx student group on campus that does the university's job to recruit Latinx students. If I'm going to be affected from this change, I need to be included. Governor Kate Brown has urged y'all, a governing board, to exercise thorough and careful oversight over significant tuition increases being proposed and approved by asking public university to provide one of the 5 criteria on evaluating and deciding upon tuition increases. I quote her, clear and significant evidence of how Oregonians who are underrepresented in higher education, including low-income students and students of color, would benefit more under the proposal for increased tuition, that one that stays within the 5% threshold. Again, as a low-income first-generation student of color, I am telling you this will not benefit me, this will not benefit us. It is creating a burden on my education, creating more barriers to students like myself to have a chance at changing our lives from the impoverished situations we come from. Again, low-income first-generation students of color like myself are eager to go to school, but are being denied. Equal opportunity for education means equal opportunity at life, because to attain a promising career means to fight for accessible education. And I'm tired of hearing, we don't have the money here. Like, are y'all really doing your jobs to keep tuition affordable? Are y'all really listening to students when they are telling you that the reason they deal with mental health issues, drop out of school, or become homeless in college is because they are being priced out? A lot of us are doing everything we can to be able to pay overpriced housing, textbooks, and tuition instead of our basic needs in hopes of being the future teachers, lawyers, doctors of this world. Thanks for your time. Please vote no on a tuition increase. Y'all are seriously making the decision to price us out.
Thank you. The next speaker is Amani Dorsey. Welcome. Welcome.
Good morning. Hello, my name's Amani Dorsey. I'm a graduating senior in ethnic studies, and I'm also the ASUO intern vice president. It's my last day, last 24 hours. But I've been working on tuition all this year. I sat on TFAB. TFAB went fine. Understanding the budget doesn't equal thinking that I'm going to be okay with it. So I hope that wasn't the intention there. I'm a first generation student. I'm a queer student of color, and I'm going to be $40,000 in debt when I leave here. So don't bring me and students like me here to leave us high and dry. Because of this, my educational experience has been heavily defined by work. I've done everything I could, and struggling like this, like I have, like we are, it's traumatizing. And I've dedicated time since my freshman year. I was here my freshman year when the 10% increase was going up, and I've been here to try to change this and ask you to care and think of other solutions, and we've tried to work with you, and the solutions the university is offering are insufficient, and we're all here to tell you that. This room includes every stakeholder other than you all telling you that this is wrong. It feels like a slap in the face after these 3 years, and and we've been telling you to intervene. You're the last people who can intervene. And I know the money is there. Maybe it's not directly in E&G, but it's there, and you need to go get it and reprioritize education and protecting our right to it. And if you don't believe that our education is a right, then you shouldn't be on this board. You shouldn't be making decisions for this university. And you can also reprioritize education by paying the people who are directly responsible for the success of students, because this is a public university. It feels like we are inconveniencing you by asking to prioritize our and not threaten our well-being in pursuit of education. Why is it an inconvenience for you to properly budget this place? It's your job. You all should be viewing this as a crisis and doing everything humanly possible in your position as a trustee to do the right thing today and not place a bet that in 10 years your plan will fix this. It really appears that you've lost focus, but you are in a position to refocus and support the core, the heart of this institution, and not balance the budget on students' backs. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Charlie Keene. Welcome.
Hello, good morning, Board of Trustees, and thank you, fellow students, for being here bright and early. First, I want to acknowledge we are standing, or rather sitting, on native Kalapuya land, and what we do must be in consideration. My name is Charlie Keene, and I am a first-generation disabled transgender student from lower middle class, and I am Oregon-born and raised. The University of Oregon claims to be a place that values diversity, and yet students from marginalized identities and historically lower socioeconomic status are being priced out, including myself. This term I had to choose between paying for books, for classes, my medical bills and medications, paying rent on time, and getting groceries. I am a student organizer who has done work with LGBTQA3, ROAR, YDS, and in coalition with many other student organizations. I am on the EMU board and incoming ASUO Senator Seat 7, ECFC. This university has a reputation for being activist-based, although I've come to realize that this is the case because students regularly have to fight for the bare minimum. This month, I cannot afford rent, paying for tuition and medical bills. A sharp increase in tuition would price me out. I urge the Board of Trustees to deeply consider the values that this university claims to hold and make sure that it includes people of all genders, sexualities, race, ability, and most certainly of various socioeconomic status. Do not balance the budget on our backs. Do not price us out. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tolly Bitten. Is it Bitten? Okay, we'll move to the next speaker. Once again, is it Morandi? Okay, we'll keep moving. I think it's Ellen Kress is the next speaker. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Ellen Gillooly-Kress. I'm a fifth-year graduate student in the Theater Arts Department, and I'm here today to speak to you because I am an artist and I'm a scholar, and as an artist and a scholar of the humanities, I have gotten quite used to defending myself and my students against people who don't believe in the value of my work. I am here because I have students in the past week who've come to me in tears at my office hours telling me that they won't be here next year if tuition raises 9.5%. I am not afraid to stand up for myself, and I am not afraid to stand up for my students. I am running for the president of the Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation, Local 3544. So you'll see more of my face. And I'm here to tell you that these people behind me are the early shift. They came here. There will be more. We are mad, and we are united, and we have a plan. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Patrick Schrank. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi. My name is Patrick Schrank. I am a freshman here at the UO. I am studying political science and cinema studies. I'm here to speak to you because I am a low-income student. I'm concerned about the needs and the priorities of other low-income students. We already have a hard time being able to afford to attend this university. It's a public university. It's supposed to be a public good. Our education is a right, but we are being treated as your commodities that are just being passed around and utilized in order to, fulfill your own needs. We don't need more vanity projects. We don't need your high we don't need you guys having a high salary while we are here suffering, just trying to survive, okay? So, sorry, I didn't write anything, but, that's the idea. Here we are. And, this is just beginning. We can't handle a 9.5% increase. And if you stay on this track, expect more. This is not the end. This is just beginning. Thank you.
The next speaker is, it's J.P. Lemke, maybe. J.P., are you here? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. And the next speaker is Maxwell Drasher. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Max Strasher. I'm a third-year PhD student in the psychology department and a graduate employee. Proud member of the GTFF. I want to say that I'm in complete agreement with what everyone has been saying today, and just to add one more thing, 3 years ago when I was recruited to this university, one of the things that was emphasized during the psychology department recruitment was the great health benefits that we got as students. I think that everyone here, if you were an employee at any job and you were promised certain health benefits, and after working there for 3 years or however long and did a good job, that you would never accept a cut to the benefits that you were promised. A few months ago when we had our psychology department recruitment events, I was asked to serve on a panel with other graduate students where the 50 or so people that were prospective students of our department were able to ask us all questions. And in that event, I and the other grad students that served on the panel raved about how great our health insurance was. Everyone here is making me a liar because we have graduate students that accepted offers to my department and others intending to come to this university on false promises. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, I guess it's Kate Schmitz. Okay. Welcome.
I'm not Kate. My name's Amanda Sager. I'm from Ashland, Oregon. I drove 3 hours, and I feel compelled to have my voice heard at this table. I am not a student here, nor am I an alumni, but I represent a community in Southern Oregon. I represent IATSE Local 154. Thanks. That's the stagehands of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Hi. Like I said, I drove 3 hours to be here to speak with you, and I'm here to speak on behalf of my 68 stagehands to implore you not to make the budget cuts on LERC. Our local formed in 2016. My international union is 125 years old. My local is 3 years old. We are a rowdy group of stagehands that got together to form better working conditions and to have our voices heard at the table. Though over the 3 years, this group of people has changed the culture of an iconic theater. We have made solidarity stronger than ever, and we are working with management to create a better and more sustainable OSF. And the truth is, we couldn't have done it without LERC. The staff and the skills and expertise have given us resources and tools to be able to make a better OSF, to make a better Southern Oregon. You are all familiar with the University of Oregon's commitment to inclusion, diversity, evaluation, achievement, and leadership. And guess what? So does LERC. As a labor leader, my job is to ensure all members are treated and represented equally and fairly. As a labor leader, my job is to fight against gender and racial pay inequities because equal work deserves equal pay. As a labor leader, it is imperative not only to go through growing pains, but to lead by example that growth equals strength in areas of evaluation and achievement. And all of this is exactly what LERC brings to the community. So please, tell me, why are you proposing such an obnoxious budget cut to an organization that mirrors this university's commitment? Why are you pushing against an organization that makes U of O one of a kind? Your union-busting techniques don't fool us. LERC facilitates research and education across the state, and we won't go down without a fight. So how about you stop trying to tighten our belts to make yours grow? Thank you.
I want to remind us that we're trying to talk about tuition first. So please, let's work on it. Rita Ludwig is the next person that I see signed up. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Rita Ludwig. I am a fifth-year doctoral candidate in psychology and a proud member of the Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation. I basically study human behavior and figure out how to predict it, and basically I'm really good at my job because of the education that I have here. However, I am a first-generation student, and if I was an undergrad, I would not be able to attend this university with the proposed tuition increases. So President Schill's vision for the future of this university is myopic and short-sighted. The proposed budget is devastating for the people on this campus who make this university excellent with their passion, dedication, and unquenchable curiosity. We teach, we learn, we serve, and we sacrifice for each other and this institution. We also do so under the burden of small stipends or crushing student debt. This budget will only increase that burden by gobbling up the crumbs that our community survives on for the benefit of glass and chrome. Let it be stated clearly for the people in the front of the room and the people in the back. 2019 will either be the year that the university corrected course and invested in all the wonderful people who make this place the excellent university it really is, by not increasing tuition unfairly on undergrads, by maintaining benefits for the faculty, graduate students, and staff who serve this university. Or it will mark the year that this university descended into financial and educational ruin over a short-sighted decision.
Thank you. The next speaker is, I think it's Michelle Dreiling. Is that correct? What did they say? Class. Oh, class. Okay. Let's see. The next speaker is Teresa, and I cannot read your last name, Teresa. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Teresa Capriolio. I'm a first-year grad student in media studies and a first-year GE as well. I am a proud member of the GTFF, and I'm currently running for member comm, so I'm trying to keep myself really up to date on what's going on here. You've heard a lot today about the effect of the proposed tuition hike on UO students, the core of this university and its mission as an educational institution. This disproportionate effects of this tuition hike on the very students you are allegedly committed to supporting and educating have been addressed by better spoken folks than me. And I do understand that budgets can be challenging, but the choices President Schill has made in creating this one speak his priorities loud and clear. Those of us here today that have spoken to the fact that these priorities don't seem to include UO students, especially underrepresented groups like first-generation and low-income students, are really addressing the fact that this tuition hike increases the already untenable load of student debt that students here suffer under. As a GE who engages with students on a day-to-day basis and sees the kind of difficulty that this student debt incurs upon them, I find it to be appalling that that concern is being disproportionately pushed onto the workers that help provide them with the education that they are here seeking. I teach a class in which students write a story about a news story, a feature story in which they engage with the question of student debt and the extent to which that has affected their lives and the lives of students that they know on campus. And those stories are heartbreaking and unimaginable, the kind of burden that this places on students. The fact that this might increase for them in the future is something that I do not want to contemplate, but I am sitting here doing so at this moment. I would encourage you to really consider the kind of effect that this has on your students and the kind of effect that it will then have on your employees who are dealing with these students on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on tuition is Hannah Pell. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Hannah Pell. I'm a second-year GE in the School of Music and Dance, and I'm a proud member of the GTFF. Okay. Now, as a musician, President Schill, I always enjoy your open mics. So I think I want to just remind you of something you said in the last one. Transparency is the best policy. Whenever possible, administrators should be as forthcoming as possible. Okay, just read that. And let's learn to trust. And that's all we're asking. Okay, sorry. I agree with all that has been said before, and I'm furious and appalled by how UO treats its workers and students. But I'd like to speak specifically to my experience in the School of Music and Dance. I know that there is a proposed $300,000 cut to music, which I've heard is actually on the order of $500,000. Now, I don't have all the details about budgeting and really what this kind of cut will end up looking like for the music students here, but that isn't my job. But what has become my job as a union steward is to speak up about the fact that we're overworked and we even lack access to Wi-Fi. In 2019, the proposed solution to this problem has been Ethernet cables. Since you've been thinking so much about infrastructure projects, I just wanted to let you know that the music school is falling apart. I'm a master's student, and I spent half of my graduate experience here teaching music students out of a closet-sized basement office with no Wi-Fi. The extreme lack of resources at the music school is hurting my students. I see the pain and uncertainty of their decision to pursue music in the first place, and they see the message that UO is sending to them. And I think that raising tuition would be another level of betrayal. President Schill, I have seen you at concerts. You recognize the value of music on this campus. Please don't take our labor for granted. When you can raise $1.7 million in one day, you insist the burden of a 9% tuition increase be put on the backs of those who this institution is supposed to be supporting, that doesn't add up. What is a new building when no one is around to utilize it, and I didn't commit to the University of Nike? Support your students and your graduate employees and remember who you work for. Thank you.
The next speaker is Larissa Petrucci. Welcome.
Hello. Okay, so my name is Larissa Petrucci, and I'm a community member in Eugene. I'm also a graduate student in the sociology department and a graduate employee and a proud member of the GTFF. I would like to speak in opposition to the proposed tuition increase. My understanding is that the tuition must increase because we're in a budget crisis. The narrative that y'all have been using to get us to be compelled by this idea that we're in a crisis is that there are these two separate pieces to the university budget, a restricted piece and an unrestricted piece. You say that you have no power to influence private donors. As one of the largest employers in Oregon, I can't believe you. It's not a working narrative. You have to probably go back to your PR folks. There's no way that we can believe that there's this restricted budget, that you have no political clout to make any kind of influence on donors. So I, kind of go back and forth, wondering if you think that we're stupid or if you just think that we're weak. You've tried to disempower the campus community at every turn in the committees we sit in during bargaining negotiations and by making decisions for us through very few people that don't really represent this constituency at the University of Oregon. I sat in this very seat 2 years ago saying the same exact things I'm saying now. I went to the Higher Education Coordinating Committee meeting in Salem 2 years ago, the last time you raised tuition. You said that students would hurt if the tuition didn't increase because programs would have to be cut. Yet here we are, facing cuts to the museum, cuts to LERC, and a tuition increase once again. This process isn't working. I do not have an alternative budget proposal for you today, but I do have an alternative process proposal for you. It's time that we have an open and participatory budget at the University of Oregon. We tried to have this board of trustees since 2014, but it's not working for us here. It's time that each constituency has a representative. I know that TFAB represents students and deans, but it's time that LERC has a representative, the SEIU has a representative, that faculty have a representative, the graduate employees have a representative. And I am not also just advocating for a representative democracy. The representatives need to propose a budget and need to come back to each constituency and have them vote on it. Okay? We're not stupid, and we're not weak, and we're not going anywhere.
Thank you. The next speaker is Haley Lanningham. Welcome, Haley.
Hello, yes. I am a second-year MFA candidate in poetry and a GE here. Echoing Larissa immediately and talking about her longer history with understanding the financial decisions that this university has made, and going back to justifying the last tuition raise with having to make programs get cut. Sure, now we're facing that literally, but I just furthermore want to mention, in terms of what she mentioned about us not being stupid, Phil Knight went to the legislators of Oregon and asked for help. Sure. On what? A building project. We're not stupid. We see what's going on. I know that you must go back and think that this right here is just a cross-section of some upstart, irrational students, but I've worked with moderate to conservative colleagues in the GTFF who have changed, who have turned against this board of trustees. It's not this political, opinion where we just want to find something wrong with everybody. You're empirically all doing a bad job.
Thank you. Nicholas, and I'm sorry, I can't even read your last name. I don't know whether it's T-A-N or Z-A-R or... Oh, you're here. Thank you. I apologize. Welcome, Nicholas.
So, as a matter of fact, I'm not Nicholas, but I was on the list and I was taken off because I didn't write tuition, but I promise I'll stay on topic.
Please introduce... So, tell us who you are, then.
Yes, I am Alberto Louie. I am a fifth-year GE in the Department of Political Science, and I'm the upcoming treasurer of the Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation.
Welcome.
So, I'm from Italy, so I come from a place where public education is free of charge. Those places exist. So, having been a member of this community for the past 5 years, I'm extremely worried about the direction that this university has taken, both rhetorically and practically. My union is currently in bargaining for a new contract, and the message that is passing is extremely problematic. It almost looks as if the president of this university were trying to balance the budget over the shoulders of the weakest constituencies on campus. We, as scholars and teachers who are extremely committed to the student body, are also questioning the appropriateness of extreme tuition raises for in-state students, who should be the most important constituency for a public university. In the same spirit, the message that cuts to our health insurance are the only possible choice for moving forward, at a time when the President keeps celebrating his fundraising efforts, appear to be contradictory at best. So I ask, how are we supposed to take this budget crisis seriously when we receive emails every week saying that the President is able to raise millions of dollars in the space of only a few days? We think that different choices are still possible and that the necessary funds are available to the university that would fill the hole in the budget. They're just going to have to come from a different bucket, to choose a word that you admins seem to be extremely fond of using. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alexis Kiesling. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Alexis Kiesling. Kiesling is very close, but I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate in chemistry as well as a GE, and a member of the GTFF and the bargaining team. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said so far, and I would simply just like to add my voice to those that are dissatisfied with the proposed tuition raise, as well as the budget management that led to this being considered necessary. I'd also like to add something that's been on my mind, which is that it seems like a crisis situation would warrant something other than status quo management of budgets. Thank you for listening and for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. We're kind of at a difficult position here. We've used way more time than we normally do, and we've gone through all of the people who wanted to comment about tuition that are here. We have a lot more people signed up who want to deal with either LERC or the budget in general. And I was pretty sure that would be your reaction. I wonder if and we have a few people who have signed up for things that I'll probably be heavily criticized for, but I'm going to kind of skip because I think we want to deal with budget and LERC. So one way we'll do this is I think we'll eliminate the ASUO and University Senate reports. We received those in writing. And well, I wish I hadn't said eliminate. I mean, we got them in writing. They were very well done. Every trustee has read them. So it'll get, I'm sorry, just one, please, just one. I'm sorry.
Maria, are you? We have you on the agenda for your normal standing report.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No, we have you on the actual agenda.
So I'm inclined to take a 5-minute break and then deal with the budget. When we come, can we take a 5-minute break, please? And do I know who you are? Okay, so will you make sure that? Okay, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Please hold it to 5, and okay. Thank you. Let's come to order and continue on here. I think we've found the 3 or 4 speakers who wanted to talk about tuition that somehow weren't here, or I skipped them, or I apologize. So we're going to go through those, and I think we have them in the order in which they signed up. So let's start with Mia Storm. Are there two of you, Mia?
I asked Miss Ellen to come with me because I have a panic disorder, and so I'm shaking.
Okay. Well, welcome, both of you.
My name is Mia Storm, and I know that you probably cannot imagine hearing something new. Everything that's been said has been reiterated, and it's all important and vital. What I don't think you have heard is from the students you've already failed. I am that student. I matriculated to the University of Oregon in 2004. I left the University of Oregon in disgrace in 2006 as an academically disqualified student because the University of Oregon failed to accommodate my disabilities and Title IX issues. I was unaware and disempowered. That time, my life fell apart. 13 years later, I am only able to return to this school because I am in a domestic partnership with a classified employee. So I will receive a 70% discount, which will allow me, as a Social Security recipient and a disabled American, to return here. I come here to ask the board to not only listen to the things that you guys have already heard, but to the student population who has been disabled, disenfranchised, disempowered, and in so many ways broken by the tuition hikes that have continued over the last 15 years that I've been in Eugene. I am asking you guys to reconsider severely and strongly how important it is to continue raising tuition. We are already broken, and I come here and represent the students that cannot afford to go to school at all. The single mothers, the single fathers, the disabled students, the Social Security recipients who are on a fixed income and cannot afford to come here, those who cannot work, those who cannot achieve PhDs or master's degrees, who feel that they are worthless and feel that they are not welcome here. I am here today to say we are important, and I have been trying to come here for 15 years. And this school is important to me, and like the people behind me, I am here to fight for these people, and I'm here to fight for the well-being of Oregonians. So today, I am switching to political science, and I am aiming for law school. And I am doing this because I want to see disabled students empowered here. So I just implore you, please don't raise tuition anymore. And in fact, if you are going to reconsider your budgets and listen to the amazing voices back there, please potentially reconsider and shut down the budget increases and actually maybe lower tuition, because that would be amazing and helpful. These students deserve to only have to pay the 70% less that I will get to pay. I would like to see that for all of our community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I don't think you needed a lot of help, so thank you. That was great. I think it's Jenny Sanders. Is that right? Jenny Sanders? No? Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Johnny Saunders.
John?
Yeah.
My apologies. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm a graduate employee that has 4 chronic illnesses, and my medical bills made up 1/3 to 1/2 of my income last year. The only reason I don't know is because I'm still negotiating with the debt collectors. So I don't know if you're aware what chronic illness is like, but every 3 or 4 months I have to make a decision where I either go to the hospital or I die. So despite that, I'm a good investment, which is, I'd like to say I'm a good scientist, but I don't really know if that type of language matters to this board. With 2% of the total expenses of your budget, me and my colleagues teach almost all of the discussion sections and labs and about 30% of the courses. We bring in hundreds of millions of dollars of grants, and we mentor the entire undergraduate body. Despite this, you want to cut my health care by 20% and make it more difficult for people with lower incomes to attend this university. What's disgusting to me is that the people that are asking me to make the decision to not go to the ER or die, but go bankrupt and not be able to do the thing that gives my life meaning and makes this university function. The people that are asking me to do that are receiving $750,000 a year. Executive administrators will earn $9.3 million next year. Those 39 executive administrators are equivalent to 579 graduate employees. And so, if this board wants a good return on investment, instead of hiring administrators that alienate the student body, the graduate employees, and the legislators that fund this university, I think instead of looking for budget cuts and balancing the budget on our backs and with the tuition, you need to look at right here at Michael Schill and look to replace him and find someone that can actually make a workable budget that works for the entire university. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Montes Mendez. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I've missed class to be here, and I'm here because a lot of other students, they are not willing to miss class or work, and nor should they have to. But here I am. My name is Montes Mendez. I'm going to be vice president next year. Tuition affordability, textbooks, food security, healthcare, livable wage, good working conditions. These aren't just buzzwords. These are things that students want and need, largely supported by data from groups like the Labor and Education Research Center, which y'all are trying to cut. That's kind of ironic. There's no money when it comes to those things, but new buildings, fields, elite research centers, and administrative salary raises, somehow there's always money for those. Cuts elsewhere, larger class sizes, professors and GEs teaching more than is humanly possible, and then the tuition increases. We've had it. We don't want to lobby anymore. The state won't give you money because they don't trust you with it, and neither do we. Please become a public university again and say no to corporate interests. Y'all say you care about diversity, but do you know who is most disproportionately affected by your financial decisions? Us. Your mission says that you want critically thinking students. Well, critically thinking students question exploitation, oppression, and violence. Critically thinking students make poor, exploited employees and soldiers. They make great revolutionaries and social visionaries. We shouldn't even be talking about keeping tuition under a certain increase. We should be talking about freezing tuition. And stop acting like it's not feasible, because I've worked on a $17 million budget for ASUO. We started out at a deficit this year and still managed to get as close to a student I-fee freeze as possible in the last 3 years without damaging student programming. And we are not getting paid professionally to do this. We are full-time students. We should talk about freezing tuition, but we should also acknowledge it's a Band-Aid solution. Y'all know abolishing tuition is the long-term goal. Other countries do it, and other senators in Oregon are also down to do it. We are tired of y'all telling us that the tuition increases are the state's fault for not giving us more money, and then the state telling us that it's your fault for mishandling the money. And I've told those folks at Salem, we don't care and we don't want to hear that narrative anymore. Both sides' action or lack thereof affects us ultimately and prices us out or drowns us in debt. We didn't elect y'all, we didn't elect the Board of Trustees, but we are taking our time to hold you accountable. So, these funds, the mishandling of funds cannot be used against us as students. It is time to democratize the process. Student leaders, we have put in hours of work to get elected by the student body for the opportunity, the honor of getting to sit down at the table and ask, beg most of the time, to be prioritized in decision making, particularly students of marginalized communities. What did y'all do to persuade the student body to choose you for these positions of power? I find it hilarious when people ask me if the student government is willing to work with y'all. My question is, are y'all willing to work with us? Are you willing to work for us, particularly considering that we pay for your paychecks. And y'all do your work full time, but we are full-time students taking time out of our day to advocate for ourselves, because it seems clear now that no one else will if we don't. When we don't know what's going on, when we don't show up, y'all successfully try to pin us against each other, but you can't get away with these things. We have been made to feel powerless in the past, but we are not. We have solidarity because our oppression is rooted in the same systemic interconnected web. When students and workers unite, that is when we get closer to liberation. We are here and we're not going anywhere.
Thank you. I believe we've heard from every speaker who indicated tuition was what they wanted to speak, but perhaps not.
We still have about 15 or so.
I'm sorry? Okay, so go ahead. I mean,
thank you. My name is Doyle Canning, and I just graduated from the University of Oregon School of Law on Saturday. And I sat right behind you, President Schill, and I shook your hand, Provost, when I walked across that stage. And it was one of the proudest moments of my life, and something I never thought could be possible for me. It was possible because I was an Oregonian, and I could attend a public law school, a public institution, and get a quality legal education so that I could do the work of defending working people's rights, the work that LERC is committed to doing. And so for me, it's like all these issues are interconnected. The budget cuts at LERC reflect the priorities, the overall orientation of the institution. This is not a country club. This is not a private school. This is a public institution dedicated to public service. And that is why I chose to attend the University of Oregon, because rights are not rights without access to them. And the Labor Research and Education Center helps working Oregonians access their rights as working people. The wave of the Red for Ed walkouts by the teachers we saw just a few weeks ago for public education, that doesn't just happen out of nowhere. That doesn't just like spontaneously happen. That happens because there's a labor movement in this state that is committed to fighting for working people and for public education. And the governor has appointed all of you not to rubber stamp President Schill's budget proposal, but to think critically, just as we are asked to do, and to be trusted, to be the Board of Trustees, to be trusted by the public with this public institution, and not to put the whims and desires of corporate donors for fancy sky bridges and world-class track facilities over the mission of this institution. I want to tell you that my husband is a GE graduate employee, and we're raising 2 young children. They're 4 and 6 years old. And his contract is now expired. So we are sitting around after they go to bed at night talking about what we're going to do if we lose their health care. That is what is happening right now. The graduate students that are that we're in community with, working parents who are graduate students at this institution, you would be amazed at how resilient and how hardworking and tenacious these families are. Over at the Spencer View student housing, do you know what people do at night? They dumpster dive textbooks that they can sell on eBay. They drive for Lyft. They deliver pizzas. They cut hair. They babysit. They do anything they can to make ends meet, to make their education possible and make a better future for this state, for their community, for their families. We're already making sacrifices. We are already doing whatever it takes to get the job done. And we need you to bring that same kind of commitment, that same kind of creativity and resilience. We can make this university work for all of us. And that is what you were appointed by the governor to do. So I really want to just invite you and implore you not to just pass this budget as if there's no alternative, to reject the politics of austerity and embrace a vision of a public institution that is committed to educating Oregonians, to creating a resilient and strong community here in Eugene. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a number of speakers. We're going to hear from everyone, so we have a number of people who want to talk about the budget and some who want to talk about LERC, and I think we'll just, as our most recent speaker said, they're all kind of commingled, so I think we'll just go through the order in which I received the sign-ups on the sheet, and but I think we've heard from everyone who signed up on tuition, so that's great. Okay, Ellen Scott, are you here still? Welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your time. I'm Ellen Scott. I'm on the faculty in the Department of Sociology. I'm a full professor. I've been here for 18 years, and I started my career at Kent State University prior to this. And I appreciate speaking now because I have to race off and teach in a minute. I agree with everything that's been said, and so I want to just state that. And what I'm going to do with my 2 minutes is focus on something that I suspect you do not know about. And the issue at hand is the public impact of collaborative research with the Labor Education Research Center. You're probably not aware of the scholarly work that has resulted in major successful legislative initiatives with significant impact on the lives of Oregonians. My work is always focused on public policy that affects low-income families and workers, both nationally and here in the state of Oregon. But in collaboration with scholars at LERC, we have produced mixed methods research that has directly impacted state-level policy in Oregon. Our first report, The High Cost of Low Wages in Oregon, was used by state legislators and our governor to pass the legislation that increased Oregon's minimum wage and established a minimum paid sick leave requirement. Subsequently, we were asked by policymakers to study the impact of unpredictable scheduling practices in Oregon, and we thereafter produced, again, a mixed methods report using survey and in-depth interviews, a report entitled The Impact on Oregonians of the Rise of Irregular Scheduling, and this report was instrumental in the passage in Oregon of the first statewide legislation in the nation to regulate scheduling practices in retail, fast food, and hospitality sectors. Now, right now, policymakers all over are watching this state and wondering what this will mean both for workers and for employers, and the concern is both for workers and employers. We understand everybody is implicated and concerned with the effects of this legislation, and so we're going back in the field this summer in what I hope will be the first of a 3-year study, trying to attend to and evaluate the effect of the legislation, again, on workers and on employers. So what is critical for you to understand is that this scholarship is being produced in collaboration with scholars at LERC, but also with their graduate student employees, who are some of the best students I've ever had the privilege to work with, and who are phenomenal in the work that they do on behalf of, again, workers in Oregon. And the impact that that work has had is explicitly because of the reach that LERC has in the legislature and with the unions and workers in this state. The legislative impact of this scholarship with direct benefits to low-wage workers in Oregon can be attributed solely to LERC. I'm a very good researcher. I think they need me too. But I don't have that kind of reach. I simply don't have that kind of political scope, nor the time, frankly, with my teaching obligations, my administrative obligations. I've been a department head for 11 years in this university, so I don't have that reach. And this is another public service to the state of Oregon provided by LERC, and one that makes the University of Oregon visible in very important ways, both in Salem, but frankly also nationally. So I really wanted to call your attention to that piece of LERC's work. Again, my address is to the budget concerns about LERC, but I certainly agree and support all of the comments that have preceded mine. And thank you again for your time today.
Thank you. I think the next speaker is Gordon Lafer. Welcome. Sure, that's great.
Thank you. My name is Gordon Lafer. I'm a professor at the Labor Education Research Center. I've been here for 22 years, came here from Yale. You should have all gotten packets of information about LERC and the devastating impact of the planned budget cuts. If you haven't, we have paper copies here if anybody has not gotten one. We also have a petition behind me signed by over 1,200 members of the community asking you to not make disproportionate cuts to labor education here. Although I'm here to talk about LERC, I actually want to start by saying something about tuition, about the big issue of the day, which is just to say that as a professor, as somebody who teaches undergraduates here, I think that the biggest barrier to quality of education at the U of O, and the real reason that the U of O is inferior to the other AAU schools, is that so many students have to work 30 or 40 hours a week to support themselves while going to school here, which makes it impossible to engage in the classes in the way that they would want and the way that we would want. And if there's something to do to improve the quality of education here, it's to rededicate the U of O to the mission of providing quality, affordable education to working class students from Oregon. LERC, for those of you who may not know, was set up by the state and the university as a labor extension center whose goal is to bring the resources of the university and the faculty of the U of O to workers around the state of Oregon who don't have the money or time to be full-time students. There is, at OSU, there is an agricultural extension center, which is the same idea, to bring the expertise and resources of higher education, public higher education, to the agriculture industry. There's a small business extension center. There's a veterinary extension center, and we are the labor extension center. We do a lot of research and teaching on campus, but mostly we're an extension center. We teach over 2,000 people a year. And the people that we teach, this is to directly address the crisis of economic inequality in Oregon and that the whole country has been hit with. We work with home care workers. We work with the people who take care of your loved ones in hospitals. We work with the people who drive buses, who pave roads, who pick the crops of the food that we all eat. All of these are people who are struggling to get by in Oregon, who we work with to help enable them to be able to negotiate with their employers for a fair deal at work. We also do the kind of research that Ellen Scott just described, that is hands-on, directly relevant research to the legislature to fight back against the crisis of inequality in Oregon and make it easier for more Oregonian families to make a decent living. When the U of O goes to Salem to lobby for money, it says, hey, we don't just take care of people inside the boundaries of the campus, we also help the state as a whole. When the U of O declares that it's dedicated to the mission of equity and that one of the pillars of equity is socioeconomic equity, LERC is the main thing that the U of O does for socioeconomic equity, to help workers around the state, people who are not full-time students, and to carry out the public mission of a public university. The budget cuts that have been proposed for us will devastate worker education, and you shouldn't fool yourself about this. There's no place else for us to go. There are no rich donors lining up to fund labor education or the kind of work that we go. We sat with the provost, and the provost promised us that the U of O would stop saying that it's working with us to identify alternative sources of revenue, because there aren't alternatives. If this cut goes through, it will devastate worker education. As many other people have said, the budget is not transparent, so we don't have all the details to tell you what else could be cut and how else to manage the budget. But one example I can give you. If the administrators who make more than $200,000 a year at the university took a 7% pay cut, which means the worst off, the person who would be in the worst position would still be making $186,000 a year, all of the proposed attack on LERC's budget, on both of the museums, and on the Bach Festival would be entirely unnecessary. So the position that we're in What this proposal is to say, in order to avoid the prospect of somebody having to make only $186,000 a year instead of $200,000 a year, we're going to wipe out the thing that home care workers and child care workers and farm workers and construction workers are depending on to be able to support their families in the Oregon economy. So this is why we ask you to not reverse this. The other departments at the U of O are being slated for a 2% cut. We're being slated for a 68% cut. I think to do that, to say we're going to wipe out worker education because we're not willing to knock people down to $186,000 is abandoning the mission of the university, both on campus and for the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you. The next speaker, according to my list, is Randall Stender. Randall, are you? He's not here.
I don't see him.
Okay. I'm going to keep moving along here. I think the next speaker on the list is Nick Sloss. Nick?
Nick is not here. He had to go back to work. He is a steward at SEIU and a groundskeeper. But I'll take his spot as a person who's affected by the decisions that the university makes on his behalf.
Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Sarah Pishneri.
Thank you.
I'm debating whether I should speak on his behalf or on my own. Nick had to drop out of school at the university to work full time. He's been a single dad. He has significant medical debt. So now he's paying off his school debt while working for the university. And it's really difficult for him to cope with what Gordon had just brought up in terms of administration budget versus budget cuts versus stalemates in bargaining. The last time the SEIU's bargaining contract came up, we just so happened to have another budget cut. Provost has assured me that that's just the cycle of things. But I think that workers here on campus deserve fair pay, living wages. I'll speak on behalf of myself because I feel way more comfortable doing that. But you should listen to Nick Sloss. He knows what he's talking about. I've never worked in a unionized workplace. I've also been a single parent for most of my daughter's life. I've worked 3 jobs while going to school at Lane Community College. And what I experienced in those workplaces is abhorrent, but I had to do it out of desperation. So when I was considering coming back to school, leaving some of those places, I met with Gordon Lafer because I wanted to have access to workplaces that have protection against things like sexual harassment, that have fair scheduling, so I didn't have to bring my daughter to a kitchen where she sat in a kitchen office while I worked. So I met with Gordon, and I was completely taken in by folks at LERC. I'm speaking on 2 people. You can cross me off the list. I'm down there somewhere.
No, keep going.
People at LERC took me in, and they've given me incredible academic advice, incredible career advice, and really have supported me as a person, which I haven't experienced in the workplace before. We need unions. And right now there is a very obvious effort to destroy unions. And I'm asking the university to not be a part of that. Please don't be a part of that. What else did I want to say? I don't have anything prepared. I'm a full-time student. I have since, after working for LERC, I've gotten a Ford Family Foundation Scholarship, which has been tremendously helpful in my career. I'm a Wayne Moore Scholar now as well. All of these things have really helped me, and I feel super privileged and lucky to have that. But please don't raise tuition on resident students. The university has an obligation to this community. This community is so important, and this community is what got me the scholarships. The work that I do in this community is what got me these scholarships, and there needs to be a link. President Schill, when you spoke to the City Club, you were talking about the links between the university and the community, and I encourage you guys to maintain that strong linkage and grow. It needs to grow. The Labor Education and Research Center needs more funding, not a 70% cut. I mean, it's like a door opened up and suddenly there's a way to spend my time, my labor, my efforts in an environment that is beneficial to my personhood, my time here on planet Earth, right? And now you guys are shutting the door, or you're saying you're going to shut the door, and I can't cope with it. Nobody here seems to be able to cope with it in any other way except showing up and feeling really, really unheard in this process. So I appreciate you guys taking your time to hear us today, for the extra time you have. And I wouldn't be in higher ed if it weren't for LERC. I don't know if I said that, but I'm here in Eugene. I'm raising a young kid who's going to a great public school. We have state legislators who are so willing to fund education if they think that money is being managed properly. We have right? I mean, is that not what we're hearing from legislators? The problem is that they're hearing from us that there's mismanagement. So please, help us work together so we can get the money that public universities deserve and not fall in line with the privatization of public institutions. I guess that's it. Do you have anything to finish? Thank
you. Okay. Next on the list is David Eigel. David, are you here? I don't. Okay, so we'll keep moving. We'll keep moving along. Bob Bussel. I'm sorry it's such a long wait, Bob, but welcome.
Thank you very much, Chair Lillis, members of the board. My name is Bob Bussel. I'm a professor of history, and for the past 17 years, I've served as director of the Labor Education and Research Center here at the University of Oregon, better known as LERC. So let me just add a few brief comments to things that have been said. We have a proud 42-year history as a successful public service program. There's no other program in the higher education system in Oregon that focuses education and research on issues related to work, employment, labor organizations, and the challenges facing working Oregonians. We recognize the budget challenges of the university. However, as it's been said, we face a cut of 68% in the 2/3 of our budget that's provided by the University of Oregon. I want to highlight that's the highest percentage cut by far of any unit in the provost's portfolio. Now, saving from cutting LERC's budget won't do much to move the needle on tuition affordability, but it would seriously damage our ability to serve working Oregonians and fulfill the outreach and public service mission of the university. And we wonder why, and we hope you will too, why we have been singled out for such a disproportionate reduction. Why? Just briefly, because you've heard some of this, but at our 30th anniversary, former President Dave Frohnmeyer said that we were an exemplary unit integrating the three main functions of the university, teaching, research, and service. We've educated over 10,000 adult learners in the past 5 years, mostly union members, in representational and leadership skills that they apply both in the workplace and in the community. As you've heard, we produce acclaimed research on major public policy issues that improve the quality of jobs, labor standards, and protections. As you've heard on campus, we teach, advise, and mentor students and hold events that connect the campus to the world of work. And I must say, it is profoundly, profoundly ironic we're facing this draconian cut at a time when issues of income inequality, racial and gender disparities in the workplace, and appropriate protections for workers are matters of intense public concern, and demand for our services continues to increase. We play an integral role in fulfilling the public mission of the university as a civically and socially engaged institution that works to make our workplaces more safe, more productive, and more fair. And as you've heard throughout the morning, there are many groups on campus, the Faculty Senate, over 130 individual faculty, undergrads, grads, and workers who've gone on record opposing these disproportionate cuts. There's no other way to say it. These proposed cuts for LERC are antithetical to the principles of shared governance, and they run counter to the will of this community. I know recently when the university was lobbying in Salem, it talked about its footprint on the state. We're a small program, but I think we've left an incredibly large footprint. It would be a big loss for the state and the university to have that footprint diminished or erased. And I also will add, you learn a lot in times of adversity, and we have heard stirring testimony, and you've heard some of this today from people about how their association with LERC has made a difference in their lives. Home care workers, paper workers, machinists, teachers, faculty, students. It's a reminder of what we do and what it means to people here and the grave concern they would have if we no longer provide these services. So I close with a simple request. I ask you as the ultimate governing body at this university to hear our concerns and help keep LERC at work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Albert, I think it's Louie. Alberto Louie. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Sarah, is it Peshawari?
She's the one who just spoke to.
Oh, okay. Amanda Sager. Amanda.
Sir?
Do you have additional comments to what you made earlier?
Of course.
Okay, all right. Of course.
I wrote them on the 3 hours up
go
here.
Ahead.
I had many talking points. This one is a little bit about why am I here? Why would you all care about what a citizen of Ashland thinks about what you're doing with the Labor Education Research Center at the University of Oregon? It's very interesting because U of O and the Oregon Shakespeare Festival are key players and employers in the state of Oregon. Both of these cities bring in employment and tourism and new blood into your town. Both of these cities rely on the arts and education to sustain through those really hard winter months. So by sustaining a healthy and functioning labor force, you're sustaining the livelihood of thousands of people in this state. So just like OSF, working people are the backbone of this organization. And also, just like OSF, you're faced with a tough budget decision. But don't turn your back on the working people of this state. You have the power to actually show that labor and management can be stronger together. So I really encourage you to listen to what all of them are saying. They're going to be the ones in your face. And I'll drive another 3 hours to do it too. But I really encourage you to listen to this. We're not going anywhere. And Oregon has an amazing labor history as far as in the most recent years I've been here. So let's continue to grow that and be the front runner in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sarah Laslet. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I believe it is still before noon, slightly. So I am Sarah Laslet. I'm faculty at the Labor Education and Research Center. You've already heard from Bob Bussel and Gordon Lafer, who have given you most of the information that I would have shared about why LERC is so important and what we do. And you've heard just such passionate testimony from undergraduates, from graduate students, from classified staff, and I just want to make sure that you are hearing that. So I want to give you a little bit of a broader context. One of the other things that I have done as a labor educator is sat on the board of our national professional organization, the United Association for Labor Education. It represents multiple organizations in both higher ed and unions, both in this country and abroad. And we come together every year to have a conference, to share our best practices, to do our professional development. But unfortunately, one of the things that almost inevitably happens in those professional conversations is stories about labor centers that are being cut, labor centers that are having their funding taken away, either by legislatures or by their own institutions. I've been doing this work for a long time. I've done it in multiple higher education institutions. And I came here in part because the University of Oregon Labor Center has a really tremendous reputation across the country for the high quality of its work and for its stability, for the long-standing relationship that existed between the University of Oregon and the Oregon State Legislature that allowed the funding for our labor center to be consistent, that supported our work consistently. I want you guys to understand that if you go through with the cut to LERC, the University of Oregon, you all will become the subject of that next conversation, nationally and internationally. Do you really want to be those people? I hope not, because I'm relying on you. I'm relying on the influence and relationships that you have with President Schill, with the political leadership of this state, with the private interests that you all represent, to understand that you are stepping into a narrative that will come back to haunt you. Please don't do that. Don't do it for my job and my students. Don't do it for the graduate employees that are sitting behind me, the undergraduates, the faculty. I'm a proud member of United Academics here. You have alternatives. You can make different choices. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm working through the list here. It's Epstein, is it? I don't know whether it's Warren or Marin or Epstein. Marin. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Maram Epstein. I'm a professor of Chinese here in my 24th year of serving the students at the U of O. I'm also the VP for Tenure Track Faculty of United Academics, our faculty union. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak and to be heard. I am here to ask the trustees to exercise independent judgment in carrying out your fiduciary responsibilities. The U of O is a public institution with the mission to serve the people of the state. Keeping tuition affordable is a foundational aspect of this public mission. Budgets are the most concrete expressions of an institution's values and priorities. And unlike feel-good public relations statements, budgets actually determine the educational environment for all students and the working conditions of those who do the day-to-day work of serving those students. The proposed budget protects and enhances budgets for administrators and the athletic program while slashing LERC, the museums, and continuing to shrink support for our core academic mission. Who does the work of educating our students? Who keeps this university running in the small ways that make a difference to everyone's lives? And who does the work of outreach to improve the lives of Oregonians throughout the state? And where do we fit into the U of O's budget priorities? I ask you in your meetings to reflect on our core missions, the education and the improving of the lives of all Oregonians through educational and cultural outreach. I ask that you help create a budget that supports these core missions access to affordable education, commitment to educational excellence rather than budgetary efficiencies, and a commitment to support our graduate students as researchers and educators, to support career faculty and tenure-track faculty, as well as those programs of the university with a historical mission of outreach beyond campus that we've been hearing so much about. I also ask you that you rethink the current privileging of sports over academics and outreach in our budget. The core mission of this university we love is in crisis. I think you've been hearing that loud and clear. How can we believe that students will choose to pay more tuition to attend a university, even as the core academic missions are being starved of resources? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe the last speaker that has signed up is Dana Cohen-Leeson. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Dana Cohen-Leeson. I'm a former graduate student 10 years ago. I'm an international student. I came back, and I'm a first-year doc student here at the UAUO. I want to speak mainly from an international student point of view. I know that I've noticed that comparing to 10 years ago, there are much less international students on campus, and I'm sure that is affecting some of the income that the university has. As international students, we are very limited into our resources. I mean by income, so we are limited to GE work. And I came with a family, and but the cuts that are intended to be in the GE, and especially the health insurance cuts, will impact my very small income, and thereby I might not be able to graduate since I will have to pay for my family members to have health insurance. So I don't know, I don't speak in the name of all students here, but I can tell you that this will have impact on international students, especially because we are limited in the ways that we can provide for ourselves. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
But my name is Deb Mylander, and I am the department manager with the Labor Education and Research Center. And I am also an alumni of the UAUO Law School here and a modest donor to several University of Oregon programs. And I've served as elected member of the Officers of Administration Council. So I've been with LERC in the UAUO since 2004. And I share, like you, the responsibility for managing LERC's budget, our personnel, and our operational stability. And I wanted to share kind of an overview of what the University of Oregon Labor Education and Research Center does and why we are important to the campus and the state. LERC enjoys, as you've heard, tremendous support and a reputation around the state for our educational programs and impactful research. We provide a unique lens into the world of the workers and the role that Oregon workforce plays in the economics, sociology, and politics of the state. We collaborate, as you heard, with sociology, but also with the Wayne Moore Center, with 3PM, history, political science, and many other departments on research and educational programming. LERC serves and has broad support from people in the state age 18 to 80. I was really heartened and impressed by the students that you heard today. It made me feel really proud to be who I am and where I am with LERC at the University of Oregon. And we also need to understand that there's a broader group that supports LERC. There's alumni. I spoke with several alumni in the past month, and who are donors, and tax-paying workers, and legislators, and policymakers, attorneys, and academics all support LERC. Many of these people who have contacted LERC in the past month and the university administration also have children who attend the University of Oregon, work with or for the U of O, and as I mentioned, are donors. They're also constituents from a pretty diverse group that includes labor unions, nonprofits, and public agencies, academic institutions, including Oregon Health Science University, University of Massachusetts, Harvard, and the University of Washington. These are all part of our community of academics, policymakers, workers, and decision makers. Throughout the past 15 years, LERC has had a positive relationship with the university and the programs and administrations that are housed here. It was well understood that it was mutually beneficial for LERC to operate collaboratively and from within the campus. LERC has been a major contributor to the mission, outreach, and community service functions of this public institution. The decision to slash LERC's budget will have far-reaching and devastating effects on our work. And it's important to share with you that will also impact the perception of the U of O in the hearts and minds of tens of thousands of people outside of LERC. I also wanted to address some information I have heard that, well, LERC can just make up the money through grants and donors. And like I said, I've been at LERC for 15 years. I started out as the person responsible for bringing in external funding, working on grants and such. And I can tell you that we've worked really hard, and it is, in fact, part of our business model to bring in grants, to work, to assess, are the fees we're asking people to pay appropriate? Are they sustainable? But throughout this time, although we've received federal, state, foundation, and private funding, they've been for very targeted pieces of our work. And it has tended to be short-term, restricted grants and contracts in the range of $5,000 to $40,000. Nothing compared to the size of the cut that is being proposed to LERC. And none of that will pay for my awesome staff, for the teaching we're doing in the community, and for the unpaid mentoring and work we do here on campus with students. The one faculty member with multi-year federal grants is our soft money researcher, Jennifer Hess. She conducts important studies and interventions on worker health and safety in the construction and home care industry. Even with her 10 years plus of funded research experience, she's only able to garner about 20% of her salary through grants. So that's just to illustrate that there is not some secret magical well that we have not tried to tap that could fill the gap that is being proposed for LERC. So as a last note, our faculty and staff have won awards and recognition both on campus and from academic and professional bodies throughout the country. And I'm proud to say, as the manager, we have very low turnover. People come here and they stay here because we're doing important work and we create a respectful and engaging work culture. We also really love being here at the U of O, but without a strong base of reliable, recurring funding, I'm left to wonder, how can we attract and retain faculty and staff? And who will fill the statewide need for the work that we do? That is why I hope that the U of O will reconsider the disproportionate cuts to LERC's budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. As I said, I think we got to everyone on the list. I want to tell you, please, just a minute, please. I think we got to everyone on the list. I think you were very articulate. Believe me, the board listens. So thank you for your energy and efforts. And we have Maria, who's the outgoing ASUO. Well,
Maria has to go to class.
I'm sorry, Maria has to leave, and we'll come to you after Maria speaks. But okay, Kurt, she gave you the floor. welcome back.
Thank you very much. Actually, the first thing I wanted to do was thank the board and thank you, Chair Ellis, for letting folks, Lillis, for having the opportunity, giving the opportunity to everybody who signed up. I think that's the job of the board, and I think you made the right decision. It's much appreciated that you did that. I think this is the 6th tuition setting meeting that I've been in for the board, 4 as a board member and the last 2 just as a hanger-on. I am, as you know, recently retired from the university as a classified employee. I did previously work as an instructor at LERC, and I was on the board for almost 4 years. I have heard much of what students have told you today for each of those 6 meetings. The burden of being able to afford a tuition is great, it's growing, and there needs to be something done to try and fix that, beyond saying the legislature is not giving us money. So I appreciate the board listening. I hope the board will take some action. We'll develop an alternative approach to cutting programs and raising tuition. A couple of things that struck me in the conversations today, and in the materials that LERC provided you, you do have an article that I wrote that focuses on some of this, and that is I very much worry that the university has turned away from the community, has turned away from its public service mission. Cutting LERC 68% will be devastating. It will be awful for LERC, but you're cutting the 2 museums, you're cutting the Bach Festival. Those are the things that help the university reach out to the community, reach out to the legislature, and I think you're shooting yourself in the foot when you do that. So I hope that you will seriously turn away from that approach. I think that it is time, after the 6 years I've been involved in this, to actually listen to the students and figure out a way to do your budget differently so we're not constantly increasing tuition. And the other message I heard today, which I hope you will take very seriously, is that there is a uniting factor that's gone on here. Students, faculty, staff are all united in their rejection of the way the administration is running the university. I know that's easy to say. I know that's a complicated issue to try and unpack and to resolve. But I hope you hear that. That has been building, from my perspective, over the 6 years I've been involved here. And it's only going to get worse. So I hope you will pay attention to that. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kurt. Okay, Maria, are you ready? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who came today. Y'all missed my full last name. That's okay. It's my last 24 hours, so thank you. We made it, I suppose, this year. However, I'm gonna talk about my report, but you caught me in a midterms week, so this isn't very coherent or what I really wanted to say. But I want to start off by saying that I'm super proud of the student leadership here. This year, I think in a lot of ways was predetermined to be a rough year. We inherited the largest deficit the ASUO has ever seen. We inherited a tremendous deficit with the university and in the state. And someone very influential to this community died. They were killed. And I think we were able to pull that to organize ourselves to do what mattered on this campus. So we have spent a lot of time lobbying on bills like driver's licenses for alls, the Dreamers Access, Cayley's Law, textbook affordability, professional licensing for undocumented students, HEC voting rights, and Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Act, as well as disarming campus police. And I'm happy to say most of those bills are on their way to making it out. And we have made some substantial, I think, strides in disarming campus police. And I know that you all probably don't agree with that, but I think, and I know that once I graduate, that will not be something that goes away, because that's something that's harming our community. I'm going to openly dissent on the tuition, just because there's so much that is unclear to us on what's being prioritized on this campus and what is not. I've spent a good amount of time in Salem for revenue, and so has my team and so many students. And shout out to David, Tech Commissioner. He's here. I think that's what it looks like to show up for your students. So thank you. We are doing the most, and I think in some ways some things were predetermined that we weren't going to get it, and it could be because they don't trust us with funds. It could also be because they don't care about investing in students. I could point fingers all day, but I'm going to go ahead and say I'm mad at everyone. I'm mad at everyone on this table. I'm mad at everyone in the state. Everyone's coming for you, Shill. And I do appreciate your open-mindedness at times, and I'm hoping that because you're a Libra, you'll see both sides today, and you'll see what your students and faculty and staff are talking about, because I'm hoping that you will all join in unity for your campus. And I'm hoping that I have a list of names of people who could do better. Jamie Moffitt, we need to do better. I know you cried at the TFAB meeting when students came in to ask you if we were prioritizing better, but I feel like that was ingenuine. Kevin Marbury, I need you to do better and care about students. I don't know how many times I was told that I'm difficult to work with. I guess I am, and I wasn't imagined to be in this position. So here we are. And what I've learned out of everyone, I've learned so much from all of you. I've learned so much from the obstacles and also tactics and tools, and I've learned about the hard ask. And so I appreciate what I've learned this year, and I appreciate what the students have done. But what I also learned is that we were having individual meetings, right? Like staff, faculty, GTFs, we're all being screwed over in one way. And so what happened was, and you can go ahead and pass these out, we figured out that there is a coalition to be made of people who runs the university. And we believe that those, without students, y'all wouldn't be here. The students are really the fundamental part to a university, education. That's why we're here, right? And then also the staff and faculty and just all the amazing people that we come into contact on a day-to-day basis. It was said that LERC doesn't serve education purposes, but they serve the community here, and I think that's what's going to benefit our education, right? So Hayward Field does nothing for me as a student. A new speaker at Autzen Statement, I love Shout as much as the next person, but that does nothing for me as a student. So I'm going to go ahead and read a letter from the Campus Labor Coalition that honestly has been the most productive use of my time this year, some of the most amazing people I've gotten to work with, and I've learned so much, and I appreciate your labor because it took a lot to make this day happen. It took so much, and I hope you all can see that this is a beautiful fruition of a tremendous amount of teamwork, labor, and passion for this university. An open letter to the UO community. Budget reflects values. The University of Oregon Campus Labor Council is a collaboration of UO workers and students. Collectively, we represent over 24,000 UO community members, specifically representatives of the United Academics, AAUP AFT Local 3209, the Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation, AFT Local 3544, the Service Employees International Union, Sublocal 085 of Local 503, the University of Oregon Police Association, and the associate students of the University of Oregon, we meet regularly to discuss issues impacting our community. Our current discussions and this letter are about the budget cuts being presented by the UO administration, their approach to the GTFF and SEIU and contract negotiations, and the threats of unacceptably high tuition increases. President Schill has repeatedly warned us that there will be winners and losers under his watch. Because we believe that budget reflects values, we write this letter to respond to the administration's priority in the current and well-foreseen round of budget cuts. 1. Affordability. 2. Student success. 3. Campus safety. And 4. Revenue generation. It is notable that wages and benefits and working conditions for the UO employees don't appear in Schill's list of priorities. The CLC agrees broadly with the administration's priorities but disagrees with their framing and proposed implementation. We agree that affordability or lack thereof caused by years of state divestment is the most important problem in higher education today. Yet we question whether threatened double-digit tuition increases are the only way to address this lack of legislative investment. The proposed 11% increase in in-state tuition will disproportionately impact access for traditionally underrepresented students such as those from rural counties, working-class backgrounds, students of color, and members of the LGBTQ community, and first-generation students. We also agree that student success is a critical priority, but President Schill defines student success narrowly. He points to a number of new professional advisors to be housed in the new Tyson building. What he fails to mention is that these new advisors will offset by reductions in advising and academic units, and that there is currently no plan to adequately train no advisors or on department advising practices. This shuffling advisors without an adequate transition plan is antithetical to student success, decreases student-faculty interaction, and endangers the ability of academic units to adequately serve their majors. We do believe that advising is an important aspect of student success, but is secondary to what happens in the classroom in the broader UO community. Small classes, rich first-year programs, undergraduate research experiences, and opportunities to engage with the public all foster student success, and yet the administration's proposal to focus student success on a poorly thought-out restructuring of advising undermines educational endeavors proven to support student learning and degree completion. Campus safety, broadly construed, is another laudable priority. But this means very different things to different constituencies and extends beyond FAR policing. President Schill's focus on prioritizing campus safety relies on a very narrow idea of how safety is achieved. Concerning the effectiveness of UOPD specifically, we are deeply concerned about the decision to contract out dispatch operations to Junction City, increasing response times for incidents on campus, and creating safety issues for both officers and the campus community. This after having invested huge sums of money in the state-of-the-art campus dispatch center, which is now sits idle. A broader view of campus security must take into consideration the fact that students of color, women, students who do not have citizenship and can experience security as a threat. We're talking about brown students. Moreover, mitigating safety risk for students and other campus community members with physical and/or psychological disabilities and training and cultural competency are pressing needs that require robust engagement. We are deeply concerned about the fourth of President Schill's priorities, revenue generation. Given that the legislature's failure to adequately support higher education in Oregon, revenue generation through philanthropy seems necessary. However, large financial gifts usually come with strings attached and ongoing operational costs funded by tuition. This sets up a situation in which university leadership are beholden to private interests which may not align with UO's public mission. Moreover, gifts of shiny new infrastructure often require fund matching requests to the state, which redirect public funding that could be otherwise paid for ongoing operations or deferred maintenance to existing infrastructure. An example of developmental priorities negatively impact the educational mission of the university is the artificial separation of athletics and general academic budgets. The fiction that these buckets of money are separate and must always remain so allows the administration to continue to lavishly fund athletic directors, coaches, and while simultaneously increasing staff class sizes and decreasing academic offerings. Disproportionate budget cuts being proposed of the campus museums, the Bach Festival, and the truly devastating cut to the Labor Education and Research Center reveal the extent to which the administration's budget devalues the public service aspect of the UO mission. While administrators publicly tout our small classes, our commitment to classical liberal arts education, access to researchers, first-year experiences, and safe and supportive campus environment, these priorities are being undermined by budget cuts and attacks on workers who serve this mission. The disconnect between administration's proposed budget cuts and its obligations to UO students and workers needs to be exposed and challenged. Please join the Labor Council. You're the Campus Labor Council, your local union, your colleagues, your students, and co-workers in helping redirect the priorities of Johnson Hall back toward the academic, educational, public service mission of University of Oregon. Below you can see all of us, all the leadership who signed on to this. And that makes up who this university is supposed to be about. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
I'm going to give Mike to do the mic check.
Whose university